How many skills can you learn at once? The infamous question. On one side, you will hear, the biggest mistake I ever made was focusing on more than one skill. On the other side, you will see our clients work on 6 to 8 different skills at the same time. So what is the right way to do it? Should I just focus on planche for a year and nothing else? Or can I actually achieve different skills at the same time? At the end of this video, you will know. First thing we need to look at to give an answer to this question is, how much time do you have at your disposal? To fit 3 to 4 skills, weighted pull-ups, accessories, and legs in your training, 2 hours, 4 times a week is a good starting point. This is what most of our clients put in their training on average. And the average amount of skills most of them work on at the same time. Towards the end of a mesocycle, sessions can last 2.5+ hours as well, if the client has the time to do them, of course. If you have less than 1.5 hours 3 times a week training multiple skills, 2 to 3 becomes a bit more challenging, but still not impossible. Fitting leg training in there at the same time becomes difficult and for sure can't be a priority. If you have less than 1 hour 3 times a week at your disposal, training maximum 2 skills at a time might be a good idea. I am telling you this is possible, not because I did it like that. I do have halfway decent genetics, but because we have coached hundreds of athletes and gotten replicable results in people that were more or less gifted of different ages and starting points over the course of the last 6 years. On average, we coach our athletes for over a year, which is a good time frame to actually fix technique and make real progress. The answer to the question is, we have to look at our maximum recoverable volume for our muscles and for skills. While there is a lot of data for MV, MEV, MAV, and MRV for muscle groups, there are none for skills. Over the course of the past years, we created our own data sheets with numbers that on average have worked well with our clients. We will give you a little insight into those. Here we can see the volume landmarks for certain muscle groups. These graphs are courtesy of RP, which are absolutely fantastic. Check them out. Now, the 2 muscle groups we're most interested in calisthenics are the back and the front delts. We can see that for the back, we can maintain the muscle with 8 sets per week. Most improve with around 10 sets per week, and most have a maximum adaptive volume, meaning they can recover and improve the best in that range between 4 and 22 sets per week. The MRV is at 25 effective sets per week for most. Effective sets means sets brought at least 3 reps close to failure. That's intense, and a lot of people don't train hard enough to know what a real 3 rear means. But that is for another video. For our beloved front delts, MV, MEV, MAV, and MRV are way lower, especially because they get used in so many other movements already as well. You don't need much direct work to maintain them. Just looking at these graphs, you will get an idea of how many sets per muscle group in training make halfway sense. As a rule of thumb, most muscle groups can be trained between 10 and 20 sets per week intensely and can still recover. The volume we can do over time can increase, and advanced athletes might be able to tank way more than this and still recover. But since they often will simply move more tonnage, move more weight for the same amount of sets and reps, equaling to more total volume done, differences really aren't that big. In skills, of course, things are a bit more complex. A few things to take into account are, on one side, we won't take the muscle group to complete failure. Since we have certain standards in form, the limiting factor might be small stabilizing muscles like the serratus anterior in planche and not the front delt, making the number of effective sets of the front delt lower and allowing us to go way beyond the 12 sets per week for planche, especially since we keep a higher buffer when training these skills anyway. Of course, we can't forget about the risk of overuse injuries in stabilizing structures. Your limiting factor in skills will always be your weakest link. If that breaks, the whole form breaks. So take that into account and make sure you listen to your training feedback. Working on one skill at a time and doing a shit ton of volume, let's say 2 hours, 4 times a week, only focus on that movement, be it directly and indirect work, anterior delt raises, military press, whatever, you will easily overshoot all volume landmarks. With all the time available, it is smarter to do less. Do it well and put work into other muscle groups at the same time. Of course, systemic fatigue is a factor as well. And especially when training legs at the same time, you will feel it. But if you plan it smartly and do deloads, you can fit 3 to 4 skills easily in your plan. Feel recovered at every session until your 3rd or 4th training week, and then be needing a deload in your 4th to 6th training week when your MRV is reached. Last little caveat. Once the final form of a skill is reached, we need to do more of that to improve. At a certain point, for extreme elite athletes, skill training becomes more an endurance style of training than actual strength training. Look at the burning gate comps, for example. This can lead to absurd amount of sets done in training by some of the more elite athletes, with 40 plus sets of planche per week. The juiciest at last. I will give you a little insight into some of the data we have collected over the years. These volume landmarks, as always, are to see as an average. There can be big outliers. These landmarks are true for volume mesos, where relative intensities are kept quite low. In more intense mesos, volumes will be lower by quite a bit. MV for planche between 2 and 6 sets. MEV between 4 and 8 sets. MAV between 8 and 24 sets. And MRV between 24 and 30 plus sets. Given these points, you will see that there is actually a lot of space to train other skills if you have enough time. A session with 4 to 6 planche sets, 4 to 6 Frontlever sets, 3 to 4 pull-up sets, and a few chest and arms accessories will take you about 1 hour and 45 minutes with warm-up. Having these sessions twice a week, and you will have a good frequency for those lifts to actually improve and have enough time to recover. Have 2 other sessions where the focus is more on handstand and handstand push-ups, and you have 3 to 4 skills you are working on at the same time. Plus, you will be working on weighted pull-ups, preparing you for the one-arm pull-up anyway, so you can count it as number 5. Over time, you will only need to add some more specific work to it and subtract it from the weighted pull-up work if needed. There are certain very taxing movements that are smart to avoid or keep simpler, of course. Heavy dips, for example, really don't go hand in hand with planche, and less taxing, more direct chest work is often a smarter choice when planche is the main goal. As you can see, it's all about smart programming and knowledge, as well as learning the individual volume landmarks and recovery points. People that say the contrary have never opened a book about strength training in their whole life, have not trained more than a handful of people, and honestly just don't understand how training really works.